Hello, my name is Brant Hunt, and today is March 2nd, 2021. And my topic tonight is the issue with money in America. That is, there are a few states, actually four states, that are already beginning to move in a direction making gold and silver to be the way of paying for taxes or paying bills with the government. So this is a major red flag. Um, and it's no surprise that inflation is going on right now. And let me just explain what inflation is. Inflation is very simple. Most people don't understand it. And that's the reason why they don't understand it is simply as they think it simply is by all these simple, well, prices are increasing because of this and this. It's very simple. The money's not worth anything. That's the problem. It means that the dollar is not pegged by what I call gold and silver. It's been that way for a long, long time. And what's happening now is simply is the United States is in enormous debt, and other countries are afraid that they're not going to pay that debt. And we recently, under the new administration here, has spent over $2 trillion to quote unquote stimulus for the economy. And the state I live in is South Carolina. They want to bring up the minimum wage to $13. So the country itself is already seeing what I call inflation. And inflation, like I said, the money is becoming worthless. In the last 2 or 3 months, the price of gasoline where I live at was $1.85 a gallon. I should say not a gallon, but 9 tenths. It is now today is $2.32, and other places it was as high as $2.41, and that's for unleaded regular gasoline. That's not premium, anything of that nature. So that means in the last 3 months or less that my gas has gone up approximately 30%. So $1.85, and that being about 19 cents, being 10%, that actually is gone up almost 30%. It's probably about 26, 27% rate increase, meaning that simply inflation is taking place in this country. And so with that, there are four key states that are already beginning to move in a direction of not dealing with fiat currency in the future. And what I want to explain to you is there are four states. All of them are out west. There's Wyoming, Kansas, Nevada, and Oklahoma. Now, I would recollect simply is that some of these states are basically Republican states. That would be probably Oklahoma and Wyoming. But the other two states, Kansas, I don't think it is, and naturally Nevada is pretty much Democrats is there are controlled. But you have to remember that Nevada is very much controlled by the Mormon population there, so they have a lot of say in what's going on, if even Democrats or Republicans. So what Kansas did here recently in the last few years is that the state of Kansas, has eliminated capital gain tax. That's a big deal, folks. And that means that simply is people can make money and not have to pay taxes, you see, on that money. And so Kansas apparently sees the handwriting on the wall here, and most people need to get their heads out of their asses and see what's going on. And I'm not playing around here, folks. This is serious. Food prices are gone up here too. And naturally, I live in a cheaper part of the country, supposedly, but now I go to get an orange, and it's 99 cents. An orange is 99 cents a piece. And obviously, there's gouging going on here also. There's people out here who are simply they're making money and doing this to hurt their neighbors. They're trying to profit off this whole thing. And so there is, this is an emphasis that simply this is what's going on. Simply is so The states of these states, Wyoming, Kansas, Nevada, and Oklahoma, are moving to, because there's a warning from Yeltsin, who's the leading person with the Fed here in the United States, is already spoke about we're going to a digital dollar. And that's another red flag, you see, because basically what they're saying simply is they're preparing for the dollar to be, it's going to tank. It's going to fall apart. That's what they're doing. And they're going to do this. And they're going to do this simply like other countries have done in the past. They'll give you a choice. And they'll give you a choice for maybe a year or less. And you'll have to turn in your dollars and get the money to be digitalized. Well, the concern is this. What would you get paid for those digital dollars? And those digital dollars simply are no longer in your control, so to speak. You see, that's part of freedom. I've tried to argue with people simply is that using credit cards is not to your advantage. When you use credit cards instead of cash, what you're saying simply is, I like the way it is, and so this is what we're going to. It's somewhat a digital deal. Or what we call blockchain is another idea that's going on also. So what is taking place here for you this is key. If you can get silver and gold, you better start going after it, because some places don't have it. And if it's price saying simply is in the market, they're saying it's $27, $28. You can forget that, folks. That's not the true price. There are certain places that I've already investigated that are probably $35 to $36 for an ounce of silver. So see, it's not pegged correctly, because what's happening simply is they're not telling you the whole truth here. And they're basing upon paper silver, which is simply I owe you that silver, but it's not based upon the ounce of silver, meaning they own it. You see, it's based on something on paper. Okay? And that's where you have to understand simply is most people are fooled by this, in this whole thinking is simply is, it was paper, silver, meaning simply is it's on a piece of paper. They don't even have it. Okay? That's what you got to understand. This is how dangerous what's going on in our country is, that people are just don't understand that they're being lied to in every category of their lives right now. There's no truth out here hardly at all, you see. And so these states, now when I'm saying they haven't made laws yet, but their bills have been introduced in those 4 particular states. And we know that Texas has already done something today. I don't know. Now we know that Texas is far more Republican. But they're also made it very clear that next Monday, they will no longer require masks to be worn in stores or out in the open whatsoever. Now, I don't know if this is a political stunt, but basically Texas with approximately 28, 29 million people is going to try to use some power with what they call their population. And meaning simply they're the second most populous state in the union behind California, which is approximately 40 to 41 million people. So what's happening simply is Texas is going to kind of govern and say, okay, what are you going to do about it to the Fed? Because the federal government's trying to push this. And this is also a first stand, what I would call not a stalemate, but a stand against the Biden administration. And I want to make this very clear, folks. Biden is not your president, okay? The country is now under the United Nations. It is no longer under your control. And there are red flags when you see this around Washington. One is simply is they put the fence around the District of Columbia area, such and such, meaning simply is that you're no longer going to be allowed to go into Washington unless you have proper ID and you have no criminal record, so to speak. So this is what they're doing to already sending signals to people that this is off limits. Okay? So you will no longer be able to go into Washington, D.C. unless you have the proper paperwork. You follow me? Okay. So back to this whole issue with silver and gold. I'm not into fear porn. This is not fear porn at all, folks. This has nothing to do with fear porn. This is reality, what's going on. And I'm warning you, you better wake up, because things are going to get really hard and tight and bad in this country. You follow me? And many people have left certain places to get away and are actually, they're not in near what we call, cities. They're moving away from that because they know something's coming down the pipe. And many people are basically even doing what I call communes. In other words, people are now beginning to work together and being able to grow their own crops, to live together and work together. And basically because simply is they need each other. In other words, simply is that people understand that when things get really bad, they're on their own. They understand simply is the federal government is not going to be able to help them. And frankly, they don't want their help, you see. And I don't blame them, because you can't depend upon federal government. Plus, when you are dependent upon any kind of thing in government, you are already more of a slave than you were before. So you become dependent. And when you become dependent, you no longer control your destiny. So it's critical that you understand these things. Simply is that, the state of Texas doing this it struck me like, wow, what is going on here? This blew me away when they said simply is we're not going to push this whole thing with a mask anymore. You see, so that will be next Monday is what they're planning to do. So we'll see what happens with that. If it might be a bluff. I don't know. We don't know what's going on here. But they have already announced that they're going to do that. So they're saying less than a week they're going to move away from that. If that's true, that's great. But we'll see. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. Again, the most vital thing you can understand about doing these things is simply is you need to have things. Simply, you need a good shelter, you need water, and you need food. You need to be able to live on that particular thing, because gold and silver eventually won't buy you food. Eventually, inflation will get so bad, people won't even sell their food because you can't eat gold or silver. You follow me? So this is critical for you to understand here in the States, that this whole thing is going to come down, and that's part of the whole thing anyway. The apparatus is not just the United States. This is going to affect Europe. This is going to affect the whole world, because the United States, if it even has a cold or whatever, it's going to affect other countries, you see, because everything's tied together, you see. Everyone is interdependent upon one another, per se. And mainly China is dependent on a lot of things from the United States, simply with natural resources. The United States is dependent upon China on basically a lot of junk. But anyway, that's not junk, but clothing and everything of this nature. So you need to understand your politicians are lying to you just about everywhere around. The other thing I did today was I was looking for some pair of reading glasses, and I ventured to a drugstore today, and it's one of the major ones. And I walked in, and there were many elderly people there already waiting to get their shots, which is a terrible thing that's happening. In fact, there were quite a few older people there, and there were medical people there, such and such. I was surprised it did not say anything about. I didn't wear a mask in the store. No one said anything to me at all when I went in there. But I did go elsewhere as I was looking for a reading glass to a eye doctor place, and they would not allow me in. And I pointed simply as, I don't know what I said. Basically, I barked back at him, not in a hateful way, just said, no, you don't have that right. But anyway, I see this is how people are being conditioned. They're being conditioned to basically the majority or who wants this whole thing, they want to believe in this, they're bringing this whole thing down themselves. They're creating their own hell here on earth. That's what they're doing. By their own beliefs and what they're manifesting, fear, they're manifesting what we don't want. You see, they're manifesting a hell on earth because they stay in a state of fear. Many older people are watching TV all the time and they're manifesting this. They're believing the media is telling the truth and the media is lying to them, and they still go along with it because they trust their doctors, they trust the media, such and such. I don't trust any of the media, to be honest with you. It's only what I see around me that I have to make judgments and decisions, say, well, okay, this is what I see is going on, da 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 da. So this is basically, again, for those who live here in America, it's critical for you to understand things are moving and they're moving in the wrong direction. And this is not fear porn. And I don't want this to happen. I really don't. But you also need to know the truth. You need to understand there are things going on right now, and you need to be prepared for the future. And yes, Heather, I would agree. Yes, they are manifesting a bad reality. I agree, and it's this is a sad story. It's sad because we are co-creators here on this planet, and this is not what we want the mankind to be like, to do these things and become more authoritarian and lose more precious freedoms. But the point simply is, I must share something that's going on to make people aware that you need to get your basics. You need to have water, you need to have food, and you need to have that in order. Yes, they don't realize how powerful we are. Correct. They don't, because they've been programmed for hundreds and hundreds of years, Heather, to do these things, and they see themselves more dependent instead of actually being their own authority. And that's the sad part. So when I go into stores, I'm talking to myself in my own conscious and saying, I'm the authority. I'm who I say I am, such and such. And I've never had any problem until the day when I did go into a doctor who does exams, and they have a store that they sell reading glasses. And that was all I wanted. And the lady come right at me, like, get out, such and such. You need to put on a mask, such and such. So you see, the fear is real. People are scared. And this is ridiculous when you're saying that I'm a human being. You see, you're treating me already as being something's wrong with me, when in reality, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm not sick, and I'm willing to, prove that, such and such. But I don't want to go into a long video tonight. This is just simply is to make people aware that you need to work with others in your wherever you're at. You need to get out of the cities. The cities are not going to be a pleasant place to be, folks. You need to be able to have someone you can trust. You can get certain things from that are not from the grocery store. Also, simply is you need to be, if you can, have your own source of water, and also your own source of food, and somehow so that you can raise chickens or raise something else that you can actually grow food, that is crops, so you can be not dependent. So what I was trying to say here simply is that when they begin to share this information, they're telling you what they're going to do. When the Federal Executive, the Federal Reserve lady named Yeltsin, when she says certain things like this, they're warning you what they're going to do. You see, that's what the whole idea with Agenda 21 is all about. They write the word agenda. The word agenda is simply their plan. And you can either refuse that and not manifest that, or you do manifest that, you see. But it's right out there in clearness, stating what they're going to do. If you desire to look into that And so that's their idea, is they're putting it out there to you to actually say, are you going to agree with this or not? That simply is. And most people, by not saying anything and saying everything's okay, they've got your consent, you see. And I don't consent to these things because these are wrong ways to deal with mankind. So again, I appreciate you listening. Appreciate the info. Thank you for sharing, Heather. I wish you a good night, and thank you for sharing. Yes, we are the true manifestors, and we are the true co-creators. And we part of the idea simply is that we need to work more and more together to help one another, also to find our brothers and sisters. And so, anyway, I appreciate you listening. And yes, thank you again, Heather, for sharing what you did tonight. And you have a good night. And I wish everyone else a good night too. Thank you.